This video is a review of independent and dependent sentence practice. When we talk about independent and dependent, I go with the idea that it's the same as cause and effect. So I'm going to make this little T chart right here. And I'm going to start here. I've got cause and effect. Okay, cause, this is the thing that happens first, and then the effect is the result. That's the thing that happens second. I'm even going to just put the word result down there. Okay, this is in the beginning. This is what happens. This is how it starts. Maybe I should say starts. And then it affects the result. Well, when we talk about independent and dependent, the independent is the first thing that's got to happen. Independent. There we go. And then the result is the dependent. If I went to go graph an ordered pair, okay, I would first go right or left. I'd first go and do my X. So the X is the first thing I do. The Y goes up and down. That's the second. Well, the first thing that happens is the independent, so we're going to use the letter X for independent. Y is the dependent. You're going to find that there are some things that tend to always be the independent, the thing that always happens. Let me continue. I know my line's kind of crooked. Right here is time. Time is going to be that thing that's going to continue, and then something's going to happen as a result. Over here, a lot of times one of the things you hear that's always going to end up being the end result is anything that says total, like total cost, total charge, things like that will end up being the dependent variable. Okay, so with that said, blank is a function of blank. Well, that kind of confuses some people. Let's go down here and look at depends on. You're going to have the dependent depends on the independent. So I could even write Y depends on X. Up here, this will be the same thing. The dependent is a function of the independent. So again, Y is a function of X. And the phrase is determined by will be the same thing. We'll have dependent is determined by the independent. And is a result of, same thing. Dependent is a result of the independent. This down here is the only one that is different. So let me go up here and highlight. Determines. This one will be this one will be different. This one we're going to have that the independent determines the dependent. You may want to write these down and make sure that you have these memorized. You're going to need to know these phrases. So let's look and let's practice. Right here, I've got the phrases, how long it boils, and the temperature of water in a pot. Okay, so something determines something. Well, which one of these things are the independent and which one is the dependent? Let's look at this. The how long, oops, I guess I need to get off of that pen there. There we go. How long the water boils determines the temperature of the water. Oh, let's see if I can move this over a little bit. Down here is determined by. See, this was determines was that one that was independent and dependent. Here's the time. There's the independent. This right here is determined by the temperature of the water in the pot is determined by how long it boils. Well, what about right here for is a function of? The temperature of the water in a pot is a function of how long it boils. dependent, independent. See if I can move this up a little bit here. Okay, depends on. The temperature of the water in the pot depends on how long it boils. The temperature of the water in a pot is a result of how long it boils. The only one that is different, see 1, 2, 3, 4, all four of these, they're the same thing. Remember I said that is determines, that makes it different. Okay, go through here, pause the video, try and put together the ones, put them in the, write down which ones are the correct ones in the right blanks, and then come back and see how you did. Right here, depends on, remember y depends on x, the dependent. What is the dependent? The dependent is going to be the height of the tree. The independent is the age. Remember I told you time is independent? So right here I've got the height of the tree depends on the age of the tree. Is what you should have had. Is determined by the height of the tree is determined by the age of the tree. Is a result of. The height of the tree is a result of the age of the tree. Oh, I took the wrong one here. Next I have determines. Now determines, remember that was that special one right here. That was different. So I have the age of the tree determines the height of the tree. This is where we go backwards and we have the independent and the dependent. Okay? Down here is a function of, you should have the height of a tree is a function of the age of a tree. Okay, let's go through here right there. Pause the video. Come back and see how you did after you write them down and get them in the correct spot. The first thing we want to look at, what is independent and what is dependent? How much you study, that's your time. There's your independent. Your grade is your dependent. Okay, so remember I've got dependent depends on the independent. So right here, I've got my grade in science depends on how much you study. Is determined by. Your grade in science is determined by how much you study. Is a result of. Your grade in science is a result of how much you study. Uh-oh, there's that opposite one right here. This is determines. So I have how much you study. Remember, the independent determines the dependent. Your grade in science is a function of. Your grade in science is a function of how much you study. There's the next one. Pause the video, come back and see how you did. Right here, how much you attend class, that's your independent. That's again your time. Your dependent is your grade in class. So remember, I've got my dependent depends on my independent. So I've got my grade in algebra depends on how much you attend class. Is determined by, your grade in algebra is determined by how much you attend class. Is a result of, grade in algebra is a result of how much you attend class. There's that different one, determines again. Remember on that one, I've got my independent determines my dependent. Oop, I grabbed that one, so it still goes there, but I wanted the D. Is a function of. My grade in algebra is a function of how much I attend class. Try this next one. Pause the video, come back and see how you did. On this one, the size of your shoe and the size of your feet. Well, the first thing that's got to happen is your feet's got to grow. So this has got to be your independent variable, and the size of your shoe is the dependent. And remember, dependent is a function of the independent. So right here, we should have put, let's see here. We should have put this. Oh, I keep pulling up the pin here. I don't want that. There we go. This goes here. The size of your shoe is a function of the size of your feet. Determines, there's that special one right here. You've got the size of your feet determines your shoe size. Is a result of. The size of your shoe is a result of the size of your feet. Size of your shoe depends on the size of your feet. Oh, I forgot to put these I and D over here to separate them to show the difference. And then I have, again here, the size of your shoe is determined by the size of your feet. The last one, right here, pause the video, come back and see how you did. Right here it says the time you've been driving. Time is my independent. Miles is my dependent. So right here is a function of. I have dependent is a function of the independent. So right here, the miles you have driven is a function of the time you have been driving. Depends on. The miles you have driven depends on the time you have been driving. Is determined by. The miles you have driven is determined by the time you have been driving. Is a result of. The miles you've been driven depends on the time you've been driving. Now remember, this next one determines. That's the one that's opposite right here. So we've got independent determines the dependent. Oh, my highlighter went off here. So now here I've got the time I've been driving determines the miles I have driven.